The accident happened on a Tuesday. I remember because I was rushing to get to my evening business class, trying to juggle full-time work and part-time studies. One moment I was crossing the street, the next I was waking up in the hospital with both legs shattered and my life forever changed. Miss Sullivan, a nurse's voice penetrated the fog of pain medications. Your parents are here. I turned my head, wincing at the movement, to see my mother and father standing in the doorway. Mom's face was tight with worry, but not for me, for their bank account. Dad wouldn't even look at me, his eyes fixed on the medical charts at the foot of my bed. How much is this going to cost? Those were his first words. Not how are you, Sarah? Or thank God you're alive. Just cold calculations. The doctor explained the extent of my injuries. Multiple fractures in both legs. Months of rehabilitation ahead. Physical therapy. Specialized equipment. The list went on, and with each item, I watched my father's face grow darker. We can't afford this, he said finally, turning to me. The business is already struggling. Your brother's college tuition is due next month. Ah yes, my brother Michael. The golden child. The one destined to take over Sullivan Manufacturing, our family's company. The one whose education couldn't possibly be compromised. But I tried to speak, my throat dry. My insurance. Your basic insurance won't cover most of this, Mom cut in. And we can't put this burden on the family. Not now. I stared at them, unable to believe what I was hearing. I'm your daughter. And Michael is our son, Dad snapped. The future of our company. We can't risk everything we've built. You're 24, Sarah. Old enough to handle this yourself. 2 days later, they stopped answering my calls. A week after that, I received a text from Mom. We've packed your things. Your apartment lease is paid through the month. We're sorry, but you need to figure this out on your own. Just like that, I was on my own. No family, no home, and medical bills piling up faster than I could count them. The only person who stood by me was my Aunt Claire, Mom's younger sister, who'd always been the black sheep of the family for choosing art over business. Move in with me, she said, visiting me in the hospital. I have plenty of space in my apartment above the gallery. I looked at her through tears. I can't ask you to take this on. You're not asking, I'm offering. She squeezed my hand. Besides, I could use help managing the gallery's accounts once you're back on your feet. That business degree of yours shouldn't go to waste. And so began my new life. The rehabilitation was brutal. Every step was agony. Every small victory shadowed by setbacks. But Aunt Claire never wavered. She drove me to physical therapy, helped me adapt to crutches, then a cane, and finally, painstakingly, to walking on my own again. During those long months of recovery, I threw myself into learning everything about the art world. Gallery operations, artist relationships, market trends, I absorbed it all. My business background combined with Claire's artistic expertise proved to be a powerful combination. You have an eye for this, Claire said one evening as I pored over auction catalogs. You see both the art and the opportunity. She was right. Where others saw just beautiful paintings, I saw investment potential. When others focused on famous names, I spotted emerging talents with growing market value. Slowly, I started building connections in the art world, using my business acumen to help Claire's gallery thrive. A year after the accident, I launched our online platform, expanding the gallery's reach beyond our local market. 6 months later, we were handling private collections for some of the city's wealthiest families. The gallery transformed from a modest local venue to a respected name in the art world. Through it all, I heard nothing from my family. Michael graduated with honors, took his place at Sullivan Manufacturing, and got engaged to the daughter of another business family. I learned all this through social media, watching from a distance as life went on without me. Then came the day that changed everything again. I was in my office above the gallery, reviewing potential acquisitions for an upcoming show, when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. Sarah Sullivan. A crisp professional voice asked. This is James Morton from Morton & Associates. I'm calling regarding Sullivan Manufacturing. I sat up straighter. I haven't been involved with Sullivan Manufacturing for years. Nevertheless, this matter concerns you directly. He paused. Are you aware that your grandfather's original company charter included a unique provision? No, I said slowly. I wasn't given access to any company documents. Well, it seems your father wasn't aware either. Until now. Another pause. The charter stipulates that any sale or merger of the company requires unanimous consent from all living direct descendants of the founder. That includes you, Miss Sullivan. I gripped my phone tighter. What exactly are you saying? Sullivan Manufacturing is in negotiations for a $50 million buyout. The deal cannot proceed without your signature. Your father asked me to contact you about signing over your voting rights. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. The hospital room. The coldness in Dad's voice. The text message from Mom. Years of silence. Miss Sullivan. Are you there? Yes, I said, opening my eyes. Please tell my father I'll need to review all the relevant documents before making any decisions. He can send them to my office at Claire Sullivan Gallery. Hi, of course. Though I believe your father hoped to resolve this quickly. I'm sure he did. I smiled, though the lawyer couldn't see it. But I've learned a lot about contracts and fine print over the past few years. I'll need time to review everything thoroughly. After hanging up, I sat back in my chair, looking out over the gallery below. The space was filled with paintings and sculptures worth millions. Pieces I had helped acquire and sell. I'd built something here, something valuable, without my family's help or approval. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I hadn't seen in 5 years. Dad. I let it ring. The next morning, a courier delivered a thick envelope of documents to the gallery. Inside was the merger agreement, along with a letter requesting my prompt attention to this urgent matter and a pre-signed release of voting rights. They even helpfully marked all the places where I needed to sign with little yellow tabs. Aunt Claire watched me spread the papers across my desk. Well, this is quite the twist of fate. Grandfather always was thorough, I said, scanning the original charter. I wonder if Dad ever actually read it completely. Knowing your father, he probably thought he knew everything he needed to know. Claire sighed, just like he thought he knew what was best for everyone else. I spent the next 3 days reviewing every detail of the merger. Sullivan Manufacturing, it turned out, was being sold to Global Tech Industries, a larger competitor. The reason for the urgency became clear. Global Tech's offer had a deadline. If the deal didn't close within 2 weeks, they'd walk away. My father called 6 more times. I let each call go to voicemail. His messages grew increasingly agitated. Sarah, be reasonable. This deal is crucial for the company's future. Your brother has worked hard to make this happen. Don't let personal feelings interfere with business. On the 4th day, my mother appeared at the gallery. We're closed for a private event, our receptionist told her. I'm here to see my daughter, Mom said, loud enough for her voice to carry upstairs. I walked to the railing and looked down at her. She seemed smaller somehow, less intimidating than I remembered. Her designer outfit and perfectly styled hair couldn't hide the worry lines around her eyes. Sarah, she called up, we need to talk. I nodded to the receptionist. It's okay, Lisa. She can come up. Mom's heels clicked on the stairs. She paused in my office doorway, taking in the space, the elegant furniture, the valuable artwork, the view of the gallery below. This is impressive, she said finally. Did you think I was living in poverty? I gestured to a chair. Please sit. She perched on the edge of the seat, clutching her handbag like a shield. Your father sent me. I assumed as much. I sat behind my desk. He's never been good at handling his own mistakes. Sarah, please. This merger is everything we've worked for. The company's future depends on it. The company's future, I repeated. You mean Michael's future? She flinched. That's not fair. Your brother has dedicated himself to the business, and I dedicated myself to recovering from near-fatal injuries. Alone. I kept my voice level. How is Michael, by the way? Still engaged to the venture capitalist's daughter. The wedding is in June, she paused. You could come. I laughed, though there was no humor in it. 5 years of silence, and now I'm suddenly invited to family events. How convenient. We made mistakes, she admitted. But this merger is bigger than our family issues. Global Tech's offer is extremely generous. Yes, I've reviewed the terms. I pulled out the documents. $50 million. Plus executive positions for Dad and Michael in the new company structure. Very generous indeed. Then you understand why. Why you need my signature? I cut her off. Yes, I understand completely. What I don't understand is why I should help the people who abandoned me when I needed them most. Tears welled in her eyes. We thought we were doing the right thing. The business was struggling. Michael's education. Stop. I held up my hand. I don't want to hear about Michael's education again. You chose him over me. That's fine. But now you have to live with the consequences of that choice. What do you want? She asked quietly. Money? A position in the company? I stood up and walked to the window, looking down at the bustling gallery below. You really don't get it, do you? I built something here. Something valuable. Something mine. I don't need your money or your company. Then why won't you sign? I turned back to her. Because for the first time you need me, and I want you to understand exactly how that feels. The next day, my father and Michael showed up together. They didn't bother with the receptionist, charging straight up the stairs to my office. This has gone on long enough, Dad thundered. Sign the papers. I looked up calmly from my computer. Hello, Father. Michael, nice of you to finally visit. Michael stepped forward, every inch the polished executive in his tailored suit. Sarah, you're being childish. This merger is worth $50 million. I know exactly what it's worth. I smiled. I also know Global Tech's deadline is in 9 days, and I know their CEO, Marcus Chen, has a reputation for walking away from deals at the slightest complication. Dad's face reddened. You're threatening to destroy everything we've built. No, I corrected him. I'm exercising my legal right as a descendant of the founder. The same founder whose signature is on my grandfather's charter. The one you apparently never read carefully enough. Name your price, Michael snapped. Everyone has one. I stood up slowly, leaning slightly on my desk. My legs still ached sometimes, a permanent reminder of that Tuesday evening 5 years ago. You want to talk price? I opened my drawer and pulled out a file. Here's my counteroffer. Dad snatched the paper, his eyes scanning quickly. His face went pale. This is insane, he sputtered. 20% of the merger value, a seat on the board of the new company, and a formal acknowledgement of what happened 5 years ago, I added. A public one. Michael grabbed the paper from Dad. $10 million? You must be joking. Do I look like I'm joking? I gestured around my office. I built this gallery into one of the most successful art dealerships in the city. I understand value, leverage, and negotiation. But more importantly, I understand family, or rather what family shouldn't be. We can't possibly, Dad began. You can, and you will. I sat back down. Otherwise, I'll let the Global Tech deadline expire. I wonder how Marcus Chen will react when he learns why the deal failed. A week later, I sat in a Global Tech conference room, watching my father read a prepared statement to the assembled board members and press. 5 years ago, our family made a terrible mistake, he read, his voice tight. We abandoned our daughter Sarah when she needed us most. Today, as we embark on this new chapter for Sullivan Manufacturing, we acknowledge that error and welcome her as an equal partner in our future endeavors. I signed the merger documents immediately after. $10 million was deposited into my account the same day. But the money wasn't what mattered. It was watching my father finally admit his mistake in front of everyone who mattered in his world. That evening, I returned to the gallery. Aunt Claire was waiting with a bottle of champagne. To karma, she said, handing me a glass. To second chances, I corrected her. Some we give others, some we give ourselves. I looked around at the gallery, my gallery. Tomorrow, I'd be attending my first board meeting as one of Global Tech's directors. But this was still my true success story. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Can we have dinner sometime? Just us? I stared at the message for a long moment before replying. Not yet. But maybe someday. 5 years ago, they'd thrown me away when I was broken, assuming I'd never amount to anything. Now I was stronger than ever, and they needed my signature to save their legacy. Sometimes karma works in unexpected ways. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so far above those who hurt you that they have to crane their necks just to see how far you've come. I stood at the window of my penthouse office, watching the city lights flicker to life in the growing dusk. 50 stories below, employees were leaving work for the day, including my father, mother, and sister, though they had no idea they were working in my building. 10 years ago, they'd thrown me out of our family home, calling me useless, a disgrace, a disappointment. Now they worked for my company, Nova Technologies, without knowing I was the founder and CEO. The irony wasn't lost on me. Miss Parker. My assistant Sarah's voice came through the intercom. Everything's set for tomorrow's company-wide meeting. Are you sure about this? I smiled, touching the glass. Yes, it's time they knew. The night they kicked me out was burned into my memory. I was 22, fresh out of college with a degree in computer science, not the law degree they'd wanted me to pursue. What kind of career can you have with computers? My father had sneered. Real success comes from connections, prestige. My sister Diane was the golden child, top of her class at law school, engaged to a senator's son, everything they'd wanted in a daughter. I was the disappointment who spent too much time coding and not enough time networking at country club events. The final straw came when I turned down a position at my father's law firm to work at a tech startup. If you're too good for this family's help, he'd roared, then you're too good for this family. It'd given me an hour to pack. My mother stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me throw clothes into a duffel bag. This is for your own good, Emma, she'd said. Sometimes people need to hit rock bottom before they can succeed. Diane had smirked from behind our mother. Maybe now you'll learn what real life is like instead of playing with computers all day. I left with $200 in my pocket, a laptop, and an idea that would change everything. The startup I joined was working on revolutionary AI technology, but their management was a mess. Within 6 months, they were on the verge of bankruptcy. That's when I saw my opportunity. I approached venture capitalists with a plan to buy out the company and restructure it. They were skeptical at first. I was young, unknown, with no business experience. But my pitch was solid, my understanding of the technology unmatched. I got the funding. By 25, I had turned the failing startup into Nova Technologies, now one of the fastest growing tech companies in the country. But I kept my identity private, operating through a series of holding companies. The public face of Nova was our COO, while I worked behind the scenes. 3 years ago, Nova bought the downtown office building where my father's law firm was struggling to pay rent. Instead of evicting them, I had my HR department offer them positions. My father became our legal counsel. My mother joined as an office manager. Diane, whose prestigious law career had stalled, took a position in our contracts department. I watched them through the building's security cameras sometimes. My father, his hair now more gray than black, hustling through the lobby each morning. My mother organizing office parties, trying to network her way up the corporate ladder. Diane, her designer suits a little less pristine these days, always looking slightly desperate to prove herself. They loved working at Nova. I heard them bragging about it at family events I wasn't invited to, information gathered through the extensive network I'd built over the years. A truly professional environment, my father would say. Finally, a company that recognizes talent, my mother would add. If they only knew that the mysterious CEO they speculated about was the daughter they'd thrown away. Now, standing in my office on the eve of the biggest revelation of my life, I thought about the journey. The nights spent sleeping on friends' couches while coding. The meals skipped to pay for server space. The endless meetings with investors who couldn't see past my age and gender. Sarah knocked softly before entering. The presentation is ready for tomorrow. All employees have been notified of the mandatory meeting. I turned from the window. How many people do we have now? Just over 3,000 in this building alone, she replied. Your family is scheduled to be in the front row. I nodded, picking up a framed photo from my desk, the only personal item in my minimalist office. It showed a much younger me at my college graduation, before everything fell apart. I was smiling, unaware that within months my family would disown me. Miss Parker. Sarah's voice was gentle. Are you having second thoughts? I set the photo down. No, they need to know who they'd been working for, who they threw away. The company meeting tomorrow wasn't just about revealing my identity. We were announcing Nova's latest innovation, an AI system that would revolutionize legal research. The irony was perfect. The daughter they dismissed as useless had created something that would transform their precious legal profession. My phone buzzed, an email from my father, sent to his department head. Looking forward to finally meeting the CEO tomorrow. I have some suggestions about restructuring the legal department. I smiled. He still thought he knew best, still believed his connections and traditional approach were the key to success. Tomorrow would change everything. Sarah handed me a folder. Your speech for tomorrow. Though I suspect you won't need it. 10 years, I mused, taking the folder. 10 years of building this company, of watching them work here without knowing. Tomorrow they'll finally understand what they threw away. But as I looked out over the city again, I realized this wasn't about revenge. It was about showing them, showing everyone, that success doesn't always look the way they expect. Sometimes it comes from the person they least expect, the one they underestimated, the one they call useless. Sarah, I called as she reached the door. Make sure the security team is ready. Tomorrow might get emotional. She nodded, understanding. We both knew that when my family realized who really owned Nova Technologies, who really signed their paychecks, who really controlled their futures, the reaction would be explosive. But I was ready. I hadn't built an empire by being afraid of confrontation. Tomorrow, the daughter they'd thrown away would show them exactly what useless looked like. The company auditorium was packed. 3,000 employees filled every seat, the air buzzing with anticipation. For 10 years, Nova Technologies' CEO had remained a mystery. Today, that would change. I watched through the two-way glass of the preparation room as my family took their places in the front row. My father straightened his tie, probably rehearsing whatever speech he planned to give the CEO about legal department improvements. My mother smoothed her skirt, no doubt planning to mention her many social connections. Diane checked her makeup, likely hoping to finally meet the person who could advance her stalled career. 2 minutes, Sarah murmured, handing me a bottle of water. I took a sip, studying my reflection. Gone was the uncertain 22-year-old they'd thrown out. In her place stood a CEO in a perfectly tailored suit, someone who controlled not just a company, but an empire. The CEO took the stage, beginning his introduction. I waited in the wings, listening to him list Nova's achievements, the AI innovations, the market dominance, the revolutionary new legal research system we were announcing today. And now, he said, the moment you've all been waiting for. Please welcome Nova Technologies founder and CEO. I stepped into the spotlight. The auditorium fell silent. Then I heard it, my mother's sharp gasp, my father's strangled sound of disbelief, Diane's coffee cup hitting the floor. Good morning, I said into the microphone, my voice steady. I'm Emma Parker, though some of you knew me by a different name once. Welcome to my company. The audience erupted in murmurs. Employees who'd worked with me for years were connecting the dots, realizing their mysterious CEO had been among them all along, quietly building something extraordinary. 10 years ago, I continued, I was told I was useless, that my interest in technology was a waste of time, that real success only came through traditional paths and social connections. My father's face had turned ashen. My mother gripped her armrests so tightly her knuckles were white. Those people who dismissed me, they've been working in this building for the past 3 years. In fact, they're sitting right here in the front row. All eyes turned to my family. Recognition dawned on faces throughout the auditorium, the legal counsel, the office manager, the contract specialist who'd spent years trying to network their way to the top. But this isn't about revenge, I said, my voice softening. This is about innovation, about seeing potential where others see nothing, about believing in yourself when no one else does. I clicked a button, and the screens behind me lit up with demonstrations of our new AI legal research system. Today, we're announcing technology that will transform the legal profession. Ironically, it was developed by someone who was told she was wasting her time with computers. The presentation that followed was flawless. The system was revolutionary, capable of analyzing millions of legal documents in seconds, predicting case outcomes with unprecedented accuracy, transforming how law firms operated. My father's face shifted from shock to understanding as he realized that his useless daughter had just made his entire approach to law practice obsolete. When the presentation ended, the applause was thunderous. Employees stood, cheering not just for the innovation, but for the revelation that their CEO had been one of them all along. Security quietly escorted my family to my office. I finished taking questions from excited employees, then made my way upstairs. They were waiting when I walked in, my father pacing, my mother perched on the edge of a chair, Diane staring out the window at the city below. How? My father finally managed. How did you build a multi-billion-dollar company? I finished for him. With the skills you dismissed, the technology you mocked, the determination you tried to break. Emma, my mother started, her voice quavering. We only wanted what was best for me. I sat down behind my desk, my real desk, not the modest workspace they'd seen me using. No, you wanted what looked best to your friends. There's a difference. Diane turned from the window. All this time, you were our boss. Ironic, isn't it? I picked up the graduation photo from my desk. The daughter you threw away ended up signing your paychecks. My father straightened, trying to regain some authority. Now see here, young lady. No, I cut him off. You don't get to play the father card now. You lost that right the night you gave me an hour to pack my life into a duffel bag. I stood up, smoothing my jacket. You're all excellent employees. Your performance reviews are consistently strong. You'll be keeping your jobs, though I suspect the dynamic at family dinners might be a bit different now. You let us stay, my mother whispered. After everything. Like I said, this isn't about revenge. It's about proving that success comes in many forms. Sometimes it comes from the person you least expect. They left my office looking shell-shocked, decades of superiority stripped away by the realization that the daughter they dismissed as useless now controlled their careers. The next few months brought changes they never expected. My father's suggestions for restructuring the legal department gathered dust. Our AI system made them obsolete. My mother's social connections meant nothing in a company where performance mattered more than pedigree. Diane had to accept that her sister, not her law degree, was her best path to advancement. But something else changed too. Slowly, they began to see me, really see me. Not as the disappointing daughter who wouldn't follow their path, but as someone who had built something remarkable on her own terms. Family dinners resumed, though now they were held in my penthouse. The conversations were different, less about status and appearances, more about ideas and innovation. They learned to listen, to see value in different perspectives, to understand that success doesn't always wear a lawyer's suit. I kept my old workspace in the building, sometimes still working alongside employees who now knew I was their CEO. It reminded me of why I built Nova, not to prove my family wrong, but to prove that anyone can succeed if they believe in themselves. The photo on my desk now has company, a new one, taken at last year's company picnic. My family is in it, smiling genuinely this time. We're not perfect, but we're learning. They're learning. And me? I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Running the company that proved useless was just another word for unlimited potential.
I stared at my reflection in the hospital bathroom mirror, adjusting my nurse's uniform for the third time. Another 12-hour shift done, but I couldn't go home yet. Tonight was the dreaded monthly family dinner, where my career choice would once again become everyone's favorite topic of ridicule. My phone buzzed, Mom's reminder, don't be late like last time. And please wear something nice, not your work clothes. Your brother has big news to share. Yes, Marcus. The golden child. The successful surgeon who could do no wrong. I checked my bag, making sure the manila envelope was still there. My hands trembled slightly as I touched it, knowing its contents would change everything. The family dinner was at our parents' suburban home, the same house where Marcus and I grew up. Same decor, same family photos on the walls. Though nowadays Marcus's medical school graduation photo dominated the living room. My nursing school graduation picture was somewhere in the hallway, probably behind a plant. Sarah, you're finally here, Mom called out as I walked in. She frowned at my appearance. Couldn't you have changed? 12-hour shift, Mom. Barely had time to breathe, let alone change. The dining room was already full. Dad at the head of the table, Marcus and his wife Jessica to his right, our younger sister Emma and her husband on the left. All of them in their perfect business casual attire, looking like they stepped out of a catalog. Still working those long shifts? Marcus smirked. You know, if you'd finished medical school instead of dropping out for nursing, you could have normal hours like me. I bit my tongue, remembering the envelope in my bag. Not yet. Let them have their moment first. Speaking of careers, Dad cleared his throat. Marcus has some exciting news. Marcus stood up, straightening his designer tie. I've been appointed as the new head of cardiology at Metropolitan Hospital. Youngest department head in their history. The table erupted in congratulations. Mom wiped away proud tears, Dad beamed, Emma clapped enthusiastically. I pushed my food around my plate, waiting. This calls for champagne, Dad announced, heading to the wine cellar. So Sarah, Jessica turned to me, her voice dripping with fake sympathy, still enjoying basic patient care? Must be frustrating, Marcus added, watching real doctors make the important decisions while you just follow orders. I took a slow sip of water. Actually, I find my work very fulfilling. Speaking of patient care, how's Mrs. Anderson doing? The color drained from Marcus's face. What? Eleanor Anderson admitted 3 weeks ago? Routine valve replacement that turned complicated? Ring any bells, doctor? How do you? Marcus stammered. Dad returned with the champagne, but stopped short at the tension in the room. What's going on? I reached into my bag and pulled out the manila envelope. Funny thing about being just a nurse. We notice everything. We're there 24/7 monitoring patients, catching mistakes, documenting errors. Sarah, Marcus warned, but his voice shook. Mrs. Anderson coded on my shift last week. I continued, opening the envelope. While reviewing her chart, I noticed some interesting discrepancies in her pre-op assessments. Specifically the ones you signed off on, Marcus. The room went deathly quiet. Mom's hand froze midway to her champagne glass. Dad slowly sat down, the bottle forgotten. You wouldn't, Marcus whispered. I spread the documents on the table. 3 missed indicators for potential complications. 2 medication interactions you overlooked. All documented, all signed by you. Mrs. Anderson nearly died because you were too busy planning your department head announcement to do your job properly. I can explain, Marcus started, but I wasn't finished. The only reason she's alive is because her nurse, Amy, noticed her declining stats and called a code blue. While you were at your celebration dinner, I was doing chest compressions on your patient. Jessica grabbed Marcus's arm. Honey, what is she talking about? I stood up, gathering the documents. The hospital board might be interested in these files, especially since you're about to become department head. Or, the story continues in part 2. Would you like me to proceed with writing it? Marcus lunged across the table, reaching for the documents, but I stepped back quickly. Years of maneuvering through crowded hospital corridors had made me nimble. Sarah, please. His voice cracked, all the earlier arrogance gone. You don't understand what this could do to my career. Oh, I understand perfectly, I replied, my voice steady. Just like you understood every time you belittled my career choice. Every time you mocked my basic patient care, while nearly killing your patients through negligence. Dad stood up, his face red with anger. This is ridiculous. Marcus is a brilliant surgeon. There must be some mistake. I pulled out my phone and played a voice recording. Mrs. Anderson's weak voice filled the dining room. That nurse, Sarah. She saved my life. The doctor never listened when I told him about my medications. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Nobody moved to clean it up. I have more, I continued. The Thompson case from last month. The Wilsons from the cardiac unit. It's amazing what patients tell their nurses, especially when their doctors are too busy promoting themselves to listen. Emma, who had been silent until now, spoke up. But Marcus, you always said being department head was about improving patient care. It was, he snapped, then caught himself. It is. She's just jealous. She couldn't handle medical school, so now she's trying to ruin my success. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. I didn't drop out of medical school, Marcus. I chose nursing. I chose to be the person who spends more than 5 minutes with patients. Who notices when their breathing changes, when their medications aren't working, when they're afraid but won't tell the almighty doctor. Jessica stood up, gathering her designer purse. Marcus, what's really going on? Are these accusations true? For the first time in his life, Marcus looked small. His shoulders slumped, the familiar arrogant smile gone. Jess, I can explain. Explain what? I interrupted. How you rush through patient assessments. How you ignore nurses' concerns because we're beneath you. How you falsify documents to cover your mistakes. Dad slammed his fist on the table. Enough. Sarah, you're just trying to hurt your brother because you're jealous of his success. I want you out of this house. Fine, I said calmly, tucking the envelope back into my bag. But first, let me share some more news of my own. You know that new patient safety initiative the hospital board has been developing? The one they're implementing across all departments. Marcus's head snapped up. What about it? I'm leading it, I said, watching their faces carefully. Turns out all those years of basic patient care taught me something about keeping people alive. The board appointed me last week as Director of Patient Safety and Quality Assurance. The silence was deafening. Mom sank into her chair, Dad's face went from red to pale, and Marcus looked like he might faint. That's right, I continued. Starting next month, every department head reports to me regarding patient safety protocols, including the new head of cardiology, assuming he still gets the position after my review of his cases. You can't do this, Marcus whispered. Actually, I can. And I will unless. Unless what? He asked desperately. I pulled out another document from my bag. Unless you sign this. It's your resignation from the department head position, citing personal reasons. You'll maintain your current role as a staff surgeon, under strict supervision. You'll also enroll in the hospital's remedial patient care program, the one you called beneath you last month. This is blackmail, Dad sputtered. No, this is accountability, I corrected him. Something this family seems to have forgotten about. Jessica grabbed the document, scanning it quickly. Sign it, Marcus. Sign it now. But my career. He protested weakly. Your career. Jessica's voice rose. You almost killed people. Sign the damn paper. With trembling hands, Marcus signed. The mighty surgeon brought low by his nurse sister. One more thing, I said, pulling out my phone again. I'm in charge of restructuring the hospital's nursing program. We're implementing new protocols, better working conditions, and... I paused for effect. Equal representation in all medical decisions. No more doctors ignoring nurses' concerns. I picked up my bag and headed for the door, then turned back one last time. When Mom? I won't be able to make it to next month's family dinner. I'll be too busy with my new position and my basic patient care. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Marcus started his remedial training, humbled and quieter than I'd ever seen him. The hospital board fully supported my initiatives, especially after reviewing the cases I'd documented. Jessica filed for divorce, unwilling to stay married to someone who'd risked patients' lives for his ego. But the biggest change was in our family dynamics. The photos in the hallway were rearranged. My nursing graduation picture now hung prominently beside Marcus's medical school photo. Dad stopped making comments about real doctors, and Mom started telling her friends about her daughter, the director of patient safety. One evening, as I was leaving the hospital after implementing another successful safety protocol, I received a text from Marcus. You were right. I'm sorry. Thank you for stopping me before I hurt someone else. I smiled, remembering all those years of being the failed sister who chose nursing. Sometimes the best success stories don't come with a prestigious title or a corner office. Sometimes they come with the quiet satisfaction of knowing you did the right thing, even when everyone else thought you were wrong. As I walked to my car, my nurse's badge catching the setting sun, I thought about Mrs. Anderson, now fully recovered and back home with her family. About the countless other patients whose lives were touched by basic patient care. About the new generation of nurses who would work in a hospital where their voices mattered. Maybe I hadn't failed after all. Maybe I'd succeeded in the most important way possible, by staying true to my calling, even when my own family couldn't see its value. And now, finally, they understood that sometimes the biggest impact comes not from those who stand in the spotlight, but from those who work quietly in the background, keeping everyone else alive. The next morning, I walked into my new office, the words, Director of Patient Safety and Quality Assurance, freshly painted on the door. On my desk was a small gift basket, from the nursing staff. The card read, Thank you for showing everyone what nurses can do. I smiled, pinned my nurse's badge to my lapel and got to work. After all, there were patients to save, protocols to implement, and a whole hospital culture to change. And this time, everyone was listening to the nurse.